Welcome to Policing TV. Each week we will explore the highlights from our latest videos, diving into topics like AI, technology, drugs, and the people shaping the future of policing. In this clip, Will Wilkinson from Telefonica Tech and Leicestershire Police's Anthony Jones explored the need for modernisation in forensic processes in their presentation to the Mobile World Congress.
For us, as we operate at the moment, we have a digital forensics unit within our organisation, so each police force in the United Kingdom has a digital forensics capability. And what our role is to extract data from all the different variety of different data sources that we have. So conventionally, what we used to see was suspects and criminals were storing data on laptops, computers, Windows, predominantly Windows-based devices. But over time, we've actually seen a massive surge in mobile devices taking over what was conventional forensics, in computers. So we've got computers, laptops, CCTV, audio-visual material. That's always been there in policing investigations. CCTV's erupted and got better quality. We're seeing 4K regularly within CCTV systems. We're seeing now CCTV system record even longer periods of time. So we're now, as part of our investigations, and particularly the major crime investigations, we're now seeing what is several weeks of CCTV footage that we need to review and essentially find a needle in a haystack. When we're talking about super high definition audio-visual footage, we're talking about quite large data sizes as well. So the challenge we have at the moment is that ingestion of data into our investigations just takes time. So we set on a journey 4 years ago now to look at the way we could modernise our investigations and really conquer that challenge of what is essentially quite a slow, manual, labour-intensive process. So if we go to that slide, Will. So once we've essentially extracted or sucked all of that data out of our digital devices in our investigation, we move on to the analysis phase. And this has traditionally been quite a labour-intensive, human-centric part of the process. And at the moment, we're doing a lot of manual human beings clicking buttons, which isn't really value add. So as we'll talk about later in this presentation, we really wanted to get away from that human being doing really mundane, non-value add functions in our process. So we wanted to bring in some automation. What we also realised as well is our current business operation is quite siloed, so systems are not able to talk to systems. So we really wanted to, on the journey with Telefonica, kind of conquer this and deliver what we are referring to as a digital forensics platform, where systems are interconnected and able to talk to other systems, and that data is essentially there in that platform. So at the end of this, ultimately, what we want as investigators and as a law enforcement agency is we want the ability for that evidence to be presented in our criminal justice system, so in front of the courts and the various different, basically the process. So what we need is that data that we get out in the first part of the process, the ingestion, to be easily understandable by our investigators. So it needs to be accessible. It needs to be able to be easily understood by a kind of conventional investigator rather than a digital forensic specialist. And what we've realised over time is that we needed a solution to deliver that.
Yeah. On Tuesday, Anna Earl, the director of Nutrivival, discusses the critical role of nutrition in maintaining the health and performance of police officers, particularly those working in shift patterns. In this clip, she talks about the work she did for Oscar Kilo.
Once I qualified, I decided that chrononutrition was the area I was going to specialise in, hopefully to get back into policing and support some of my former peers and colleagues that were still having to sort of rely on those unhealthy food options and the consequences of that. The more that I read, the more I saw links with chronic health conditions, increased risk of type 2 diabetes, and I just wasn't sure that anyone was particularly looking at that, and whether shift workers were aware of that when they first embark in policing in their maybe late teens, early 20s, when they are invincible. But will have that knock-on effect of living that lifestyle for maybe decades, and not realising there's some really simple things you can do about it if you've got the knowledge.
So you have recorded some video content with Oscar Kilo, and that is available via the Oscar Kilo website. Also, you do work with not just a number of police forces, but with other emergency services, others working in shift patterns of some sort, with one-to-one support and in wider support. So tell us about what it is that you offer and what it is that you're now looking for. So part of the wish on this recording, what it is that you're hoping will happen in terms of people getting in touch.
So I have a one-to-one private practice, but alongside that I do some group programs and I work with corporate organisations and different emergency service organisations, either doing talks to large groups, sort of introducing them to chrononutrition and saying, you know, these are the sort of top tips to take away about what to eat when around the clock, and to consider the digestive function that what you're demanding of your digestive function to do when you eat certain foods at certain times of the day and night. Suggesting some perhaps alternatives, but also just saying I know it's challenging. I know that when you've done a grueling shift and you want to go home and sleep and you want to spend time with your family, the thought of meal planning and food shopping and preparing food feels onerous and feels overwhelming. But it really is the only way to invest in you and your performance, your health. No one else is going to worry about that too much. It is down to you. And with these little tweaks, I've worked with some bus drivers recently at a bus company, and they've just made some really small tweaks, understanding about blood sugar and about metabolizing different food groups, with some incredible outcomes just a few weeks later. And they've not felt they're on a punishing diet, they're not restricting everything, it hasn't felt miserable. It's about helping them to understand that this lifestyle is really worth it, it's worth prioritising it.
At the end of the week, we looked at retired Ottawa Police Inspector Lance Valcour, shares his extensive career in policing. Amongst other topics, he introduces the challenges of mental health and addiction faced by first responders.
There is so much we could speak about here, Lance, but I do want now to lead into part two. So the clue again being in the title of the book that we're in the next video going to talk about, If Only They Knew, A Cop's Journey with Addiction and Mental Health. You refer in materials associated with the launch of the book, as we record coming up fairly shortly. You refer to the book as having strength, courage, love, a story about how a woman faced with immense challenges in her relationship found the inner strength and courage to stand up and say, no more, this ends today. Before we actually get into the book, just give us a lead into it from your policing career that then gives us an opportunity to break for part one and then come back for part two.
For sure. I think there isn't anyone that's going to watch this that has served as a police officer or paramedic, firefighter, first responder, military, that there wasn't a seminal moment in their careers, typically fairly early on, where something happened, they witnessed something. And I like to use the analogy of A Christmas Carol and Marlowe with the chains dragging, right? Those chains get added on over and over and over, and they get heavier and heavier and heavier, but we don't know it. We don't see it. And the first chain of that was kind of added to my mental health world and challenges came very early in my career, and I think we could talk about that in the next segment.
Thank you for watching. Tune in next week.